Hi everybody, Dana Litwin here again, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips for Leaders of Volunteers. This week talking about what framework or what system is best for volunteer engagement, volunteer development, management, administration, whichever word you use for the job that you do, leading volunteers, and specifically frameworks that have acronyms, so they're easier to remember. The basic ideas and the core concepts have keywords that stand out as an acronym. And I am talking about this not just because I have my 3 C's of happy volunteers, and hopefully you've seen my webinar on that or the many videos I have here on the channel. And for me, that framework came about as a way to take all of the complexities that we do running volunteer programs and doing community engagement and having a wide enough framework or lens to cover anyone in any sector. And to me, that meant taking this complexity and simplifying it to the ideas of the 3 C's: comfort, convenience, connection. And if you're thinking about those and some other ideas within those that I also teach as a memory device of words that begin with T, like convenience being transportation and time and technology, just as one example. But these are really just mnemonic devices, just ways to help you think about very complex things in a simple way, even though the frameworks of these acronym approaches can be very complex when you get beyond the few letters in the acronym word. So that's my 3 C's of happy volunteers, if you're not familiar. Another one that was one of the first that I heard in 2012, I was at the Points of Light conference in Chicago, and there I met who is now a fantastic friend and colleague, Martin J. Cowling, legend in the business. And he had an acronym, and I was messaging him recently, and he's like, I don't remember how I came up with it, but the acronym is SUCCESS, and that's another easy to remember thing. So in Martin's case, success is strategy, developing a clear plan for volunteer engagement, aligning with your organization's mission, and set measurable goals and objectives. That's S. Understanding impacts, recognize and assess the impacts of volunteering on volunteers, the organization, and the community or cause. Understanding these impacts helps in effectively demonstrating the value of volunteering. The C in success, or the first C, is capacity investment, investing in the resources and infrastructure needed to support volunteers. And this could include technology, facilities, training, staff dedicated to volunteer coordination and support. The next C is creativity in roles, recruitment, and recognition, designing diverse and engaging volunteer roles, implementing innovative recruitment strategies, establishing recognition programs ongoing to acknowledge volunteers' contributions. And then his E in success, we're going to put an asterisk next to E, you'll see for a reason in a second, is evaluation and continuous improvement. Regularly evaluating the volunteer program to identify successes and areas for improvement, and using feedback from volunteers and stakeholders to adjust and continuously enhance the program. And then the last 2 S's for success in Martin's framework are support, which is provide comprehensive support to volunteers, ensuring that they have a positive and fulfilling experience. This includes effective communication, mentorship, emotional support, and recognition. Celebrations and joy are part of the support system, creating an environment where volunteers feel valued and motivated. And the final S in Martin's success framework acronym is sustainability. Planning for the long-term sustainability of the volunteer program. And this involves strategic planning, financial stability, sustainability, leadership development, and flexibility to adapt to changing needs. So in Martin's case, that acronym, that's a chunk of information just in that acronym and the basic definitions. And then you dig deeper and it gets even more complex. That's great. Another one that's taking complexities and framing them and with a few simple words is my friend Barry's, and I've got lots of his Tuesday tips and priceless advice to share as well. But Barry Altland has a fantastic book out called The Head, Heart, and Hands of Volunteer Engagement, and it's really great for leaders of volunteers to read. And the difference with Barry's approach, which I find just really, really fascinating, is he came from a corporate communications and corporate training background. So he's a fantastic communicator and presenter. If you haven't seen him in real life, he's great. You should do that. And it also is really motivated by his experiences for many decades as a volunteer and leading youth development volunteer programs. And I think having that, I've been a volunteer for a long time and I've been in the corporate world and I lead volunteer programs for many years and design how those work. I think all that together, not just because it's in a book and it's easy to get and read, and I'll give you the link to get the book below, but I really appreciate that approach that, again, we're taking in these frameworks really complicated ideas and trying to figure out how can we apply them to be useful to the widest possible audience of participants. That's really what it comes down to with these. And then closing out this Tuesday Tips video, the newest acronym I came across was a webinar I just attended by Mike Maddox at University of Wisconsin, and he's does the University of Wisconsin Extension Agriculture and Natural Resources, Horticulture and Master Gardeners. It's not easy to say, but it is a fantastic program. And so he directs those programs through a university. And this acronym is for that very specific audience and very specifically skilled volunteers who are doing gardening, landscaping, and for this webinar, horticultural therapy, which is its own thing, therapy gardens. So very, very specialized. And the acronym that he's used with this university program is called, doesn't really roll off the tongue, but it's still great, ISOTURE. So ISOTURE, and that stands for identification, selection, orientation, training, utilization, and remember that E word? Evaluation. So I was thrilled that E stood for evaluation, because in this particular audience, for this webinar and also the work that Mike does, that's such a specialized audience. It's so specialized and it's so in its own world of gardens and plants and landscaping and horticultural therapy, that Mike himself said in the webinar, he only very recently realized that there are national or global professional networks for leaders of volunteers like Alive or IAVE, and that there are all these resources like with Engage and Volunteer Match, and again on Alive's website. So he's only fairly recently, after decades of this work, figured out, kind of poked his head out of his little community of practice and realized there's this whole world of volunteer engagement and leaders of volunteers that's a network and community to join. And I, piped up in the chat and said, hey, here are the links if you want to join these other professional associations that could be of help developing these skills. And I think no matter what framework you're using, it's really just, it's a map. It's how to get around. It's how to think about something. So what is the best framework? Do all roads and acronyms lead to success with volunteer engagement? I think that's up to you to decide. And the good news is that all of these frameworks, all of these approaches, acronyms or not, you're not limited to just one. You may resonate more with mine or with Barry's or with Martin's Success, or you might be running something that's specific to plants and gardening and, ISOTURE, that's going to work. Or actually, I can make that work in a completely different sector of nonprofit work over here. It's whatever resonates with you, whatever works best for what you're doing. And I think of it as a fantastic buffet or smorgasbord where, like, hey, the 3 C's are over here and Barry's 3 H's are over here and Martin's Success is over here and Mike's got his own really, really great table with ISOTURE over here. But you can taste and mix and match and blend flavors and textures and types of ideas. Or you could decide that, hey, One of these is a perfect fit for me, and I totally click with how to think about it that way, and I can dig in deeper if it's a simple acronym, or I like these more complex acronyms and frameworks where I get the main points and a lot of information right up front. That's really up to you. But it is a big wide world of volunteer development, volunteer engagement, and I'm happy anytime I see and learn from a section of nonprofit work or volunteer engagement work that I haven't heard about or much of previously. So thank you, Mike, for that. And I hope all of you enjoy these Tuesday tips, and check out more resources, of course, in the video description below, and we'll see you next time. Take care.